regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm glad you've joined us on the program today. Coming up, we're going to be spending some time with a gentleman named Darwin Belliard. I ran across Darwin in a local news story from Louisville, Kentucky, where he lives. This was late last week, and the story from WLKY focused on training that Darwin is doing in the community there, specifically first aid training. And I thought it was fascinating that here's somebody who is a Second Amendment supporter, but who is, wanting to go beyond just firearms training and wanting to give folks the ability to, help others in need, even if they don't own a firearm. If they see a shooting victim or they see somebody who is hurt, he's trying to give them the skill set and the mindset to step up in those circumstances and to help folks out. So I wrote a piece at Bearing Arms over the weekend based on the WOKY story, but that wasn't enough. I wanted to actually talk to Darwin myself. Reached out and we were able to spend a couple of minutes together talking about how he actually decided to do this, what the attitudes are like right now in Louisville when it comes to firearms ownership, and more importantly, what we can do to help out and get involved. Take a look and a listen to our conversation with Darwin Belliard. Darwin, thanks so much for coming to the program, sir. It's good talking to you.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here.
And I got to say, when I ran across your story there in local media in Louisville, I was really impressed. I wrote something up over the weekend, but I actually wanted to have the chance to reach out to you and kind of explore what you're doing there in Louisville in a little more in-depth a manner than even the local media can do. So you are teaching Louisville residents what to do. I mean, first of all, let's just talk about the crime rate in Louisville. There have been 112 homicides this year. Shootings, I know, are up exponentially. And you want to try to do something to save lives.
Absolutely. I grew up in the west end of Louisville my entire life. So, seeing violence, seeing crime, I'm no stranger to it. And there's almost two types of people I grow up in the west end: those that become a product of the inner city environments, and those who want to change it. Well, and there's those that just simply move away without changing it. There's about three aspects of it. And I knew since I was young, I didn't want to become a product of what, inner city environments do. And I know that I want to change it. So I try my best to do what I can to improve the community all in all.
So if you don't mind, I want to ask about that for a second, because, obviously Louisville's crime problem is not Louisville's alone. We're seeing this an increase in violent crime in cities across the country. And as somebody who grew up, you say, in an area where you were not immune to seeing the effects of violence, I'm curious, was there a conscious choice on your part at some point to say, I'm not going to go down that road? And what did you do to ensure that you didn't go down the wrong path as you were growing up?
So I feel a big part of it were my parents, growing up in a two-parent household. I didn't grow up with a lot, but I had great guidance. My mother, she's Black, and my father, he's from Dominican Republic, from Santo Domingo, so a very, very poor country. And we just grew up in the West End, and my mother, she would always say, just don't be like some of these people, and by these people, she meant gang members, drug dealers, things that you typically run into in an environment like this and in a community like that. Growing up, I would see all kinds of bad kids on the street, littering, smoking at the age of 11 years old, carrying guns and knives and stuff like that. And I just knew from such a young age I didn't want to be a part of that. I always knew I was different. Growing up, I was watching anime. I thought I was a ninja while everybody else was doing drugs and things of that nature. And people always used to make fun of me because of the way I talk. People would never guess I'm from the west end of Louisville because of my diction and enunciation of words. But I don't know. People always used to tease me about it, things like that, and I came to embrace it finally. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've become. And I could thank a lot of that because of my parents. I feel like having a two-parent household and them giving you proper guidance is key. in adolescence and growing up, and it just having the balance um, of the perspective of a man and a woman is very important to balance out somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, am I correct? Did you join the military after high school?
Yes, I did.
And paratrooper, correct?
Yes. I was in the U.S. Army for 4 years right out of high school. I served from 2014 to 2018, so I'm going on 3 years I've been a civilian. And I was assigned to 173rd Airborne Brigade, 1st Battalion, the 503rd.
God bless you. Well, thank you so much for your service. And what kind of impact did that have on you? Were you a Second Amendment supporter before you joined the military growing up, or was that something that came later in your life?
I've always been a Second Amendment supporter. I can't remember what exactly got me into guns, but something just did. I remember being real little. I was on YouTube when YouTube first came out, and I saw a video of someone shooting an MP5, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then my mom caught me watching that. You would have thought porn. Stop watching stuff about guns. I don't want you looking at that. Because my mother grew up in the West, and then she saw what guns can do to people, and she just didn't want me around that. So then finally growing up, my great grandfather, who passed away many years before I was born, he had a chest full of antique firearms, and my mother would always say, don't touch it, don't go anywhere near it, don't even look at them, because my mother, she had somewhat of a fear of firearms, so she didn't have much of a respect nor a rapport for them. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I don't know how we did it, but we all kind of talked my mom into going to the gun range, just taking out the guns, doing some homework on it. And then she finally built a respect and rapport for it. And then all in all, my entire family started kind of getting on board with the whole Second Amendment thing. I think I was the first one really into it, but yeah, we're slowly growing into that culture.
That's awesome, man. You've been changing hearts and minds for quite some time now. And so what made you decide to get involved in actually teaching, not just because you hang on, let me back up here. You're doing a lot in your community. You are teaching folks how to be safe and responsible around firearms, right?
Yes, sir.
But you're also teaching what I think is a critical skill, and I'm going to paraphrase what I saw you say, that if you know how to pull a trigger, you should know how to plug a hole, right?
Absolutely.
So what does that entail, and what are you doing there in Louisville?
So as far as my occupation, I can't get too much into it.
Sure.
Let's just say I'm in the business of protection, a protected individual, and under their collective, they wanted me to kind of teach others, in the community about firearm safety and about medical training, because it's extremely valuable. And for me, it was like kind of my way of giving back to the community, both growing up in the West End as well as, I've had millions of dollars of tax-paying money go towards my training. So why not give a little bit of that back to civilians so they can take it and run with it and save lives? I always told myself, if I could save at least one life, I know at my job is not done, but I can feel complete.
Yeah.
And the more I can save and the more testimonies I receive, the better I feel, and it shows that this training is truly effective.
So what does the training consist of? I mean, how many hours is your course? Obviously, you're not teaching folks how to become licensed paramedics or EMTs. That's not the goal here. But what do folks learn when they go out and they get a lesson from you?
So I train every Tuesday, and then my first class is firearm safety and proficiency. Before I even go over like how to properly hold a pistol and things of that nature, I make people fully disassemble a Glock. I had people within my organization purchase lots of airsoft Glocks that are licensed by Glock. They take down the same exact way as a real one does, and I make them go over the fundamentals of safety, like don't put your finger on trigger unless you intend to shoot. Do not point anything unless you want to kill them, and do not aim at the gun at anything you intend on destroying. And also, every bullet has a lawyer attached to it. Once they have that understanding, I tell them do not flag anybody with that firearm. Every time somebody does, I give them a tally mark on their hand with a permanent marker. And I said, every mark that's on your hand was you possibly killing somebody from you doing an unsafe act with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they fully disassemble and reassemble, I take my real Glock with dummy rounds, show them how to chamber round, how to unchamber, how to make sure it's lock and clear, make sure you can check the chamber. And then after all of that, I finally teach them how to properly hold a pistol, proper stance, sight alignment, things of that nature. And then now we're finally getting into a phase where I'm teaching them how like hide doors for like home defense, or if you're coming home late at night, your back door's open, how to clear out that room, what's cover, what's concealment, things of that nature. Cause, one of my hobbies is airsoft as well, which is just straight force on force training if you truly look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a very, very valuable asset and a different perspective than like just shooting at a piece of paper all day. There's only so much you can learn from that versus actually sticking the barrel in somebody's face and seeing how they react and flinch. So that kind of also goes into my gun training class.
Okay.
And then, that happens for about an hour to hour and a half. Of course, I do this every single week, and it's a progressive class, so they learn more and more as we go on.
So do you have the same people coming back week after week then?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay.
Some weeks I'll have 2 people, some weeks I'll have 10, it all really depends.
Yeah.
And then I go into my medical training, which is normally the same crowd. And for medical training, I go over what I learned from TCCC, which is Tactical Combat Casualty Care. And we go over what's called the March assessment because, we found on the battlefield that 80% of deaths happen from hemorrhaging. So if we could properly learn how to control bleeding, we can mitigate a lot of these deaths. So they came out with the March assessment, which is massive hemorrhaging, airway management, respiratory, circulation, and head trauma / hypothermia. And sometimes people will put E at the end for everything else / evacuation. So I go over that with people. I mainly harp on massive hemorrhaging, the M portion, because a lot of people aren't going to have an IFAC or most of the equipment to go through a full March assessment. Mm-hmm. So I show people how apply a tourniquet, how to apply a combat gauze or any other type of hemostatic agent, and how to properly wrap. And then we finally get to A with the donated medical supplies. I show them how to utilize a nasopharyngeal airway, what a head tilt chin lift is, when to use a jaw thrust, and then I show them how to apply occlusive dressing, needle D. I go a little bit in depth with what I learned from the military and kind of modify, I kind of take out the tactical sense of what I've learned from the military and try my best to apply it to the civilian world on what a street medic could possibly do or an everyday citizen carrying a tourniquet in their car could do for someone.
I gotta say, man, I'm so impressed by what you're doing here, and you're doing this each and every week. How are you getting the word out that you're putting on these courses?
At first, I would have members within the organization who I work with kind of put that stuff out. But lately, my client was like, "No, you need to start going out and advocating for this yourself, and you need to come up with your own fundraising and stuff like that." And I'm like, man, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted someone else to bring me people to train. I train them. They handle everything else. I got a lot on my plate already, but I'm learning. So now I'm finally going to start getting my name out more on social media. I hate my name being out there, so I'm going to try my best to get my name out on social media and make posters or flyers, possibly handed out at local universities. We even have members canvassing and things of that nature just to get the word out for a community.
Got it. Well, listen, I appreciate you talking to me because I know that you're not doing this to become an influencer. You're not doing this to, get 1 million followers on Facebook or Instagram. You're doing this because you care about the community. And I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us. If folks want to help, if they want to, offer you support, donations, funds for, training supplies, or if they want more information, how can they get in touch with you?
For the time being, the best way would be via email or my Instagram or Facebook.
Okay.
My email is darwin.belliard1@gmail.com. And my Instagram is katana_savage. And
Okay.
I came up with the Instagram name because when I was stationed in Europe, I would tell people I'm a traveling SoundCloud rapper, so I didn't have to tell them I was in the military. So I just kind of stuck with that name. They had to believe me, They were like, "Well, it's with a darky being Eastern Europe." But anyways, those are the best ways to currently get in contact with me. If you guys would love to give donations, testimonies, anything like that, I would absolutely love to hear from you. I'll answer any email and any question you guys will have for me.
Well, listen, I want to stay in touch and check back in with you in a couple of months if that's okay. Because again, I'm really impressed, but I'm also very grateful for what you're doing, Darwin, and I appreciate it very much. I know that gun owners around the country do as well. It seems to me like you're dealing in the real world, and we've got a lot of gun control activists say, well, if we just could ban the guns, well, that's not going to happen. We live in a nation with 100 million gun owners, 400 million firearms, and the right to keep and bear them. So whether you like the Second Amendment or not, we live in a country with a lot of firearms. Exactly. And they're not going anywhere. So, it seems to me like you've got a very realistic goal here of let's ensure that, if there are shooting victims, if there are victims of violent crime, that the rest of us can step up and make sure that those folks are protected and taken care of if possible.
Absolutely. Before I start every gun class, I tell them, look, guys, we are a gun culture. Whether you like it or not, America is a gun culture. We have so many guns, it's impossible to get rid of them all. And at first, my organization wanted to hand out gun locks and stuff like that. And I was like, the number one piece of safety for firearms is knowledge. It is knowledge. It doesn't matter how many gun locks or safes that you have. If you have no knowledge about that firearm, rapport nor respect, you're not going to get anywhere, and negligent discharges and mass shootings are going to continue to happen.
Absolutely. Have you seen, I'm curious, I know we're running out of time here, but have you seen a change in attitudes towards the Second Amendment since let's say the riots after Breonna Taylor's death last year and all of the unrest that we saw and all of the increase in violence? Has that changed people's mind? Have that made Louisville residents, you think, either more interested in gun control or more interested in protecting themselves with a firearm?
So that one's a bit of a slippery slope because right before that entire incident happened, Kentucky passed a constitutional carry law. Mm-hmm. So everyone just took a gun, stuck it in their pants, and thought they were John Wick with a stick, after they passed that bill. So it's kind of hard to say, but I will say currently in the Black community, there's been quite the rise in people seeking to get proper training, and especially from Black women. I was extremely humbled that a lot of my friends are Black female would reach out to me like, "Hey, Darwin, I really want to learn about guns the proper way. Can you please teach me?" And I want to say Black women are some of the smallest minority groups within the Second Amendment community, and it was just extremely humbling for me to hear that from them. And I was like, I'll absolutely love to. Anybody that comes to me with good intention, wanting to learn about firearms, I will teach them. So I will say within the Black community, the Second Amendment culture is starting to become more positive because from my understanding in the past, Black people kind of felt that guns was kind of like a white people thing. Mm-hmm. And over time, they're starting to realize it's an American thing. This is for all Americans. We could all uphold the Second Amendment and our right to bear arms. And people are finally starting to take it up in a respectful manner rather than gang banging and homicides, things of that nature. People actually want to learn, get properly licensed, actually carry a holster, things of that nature. So I think it's spraying a bit more positivity in Louisville.
Yeah, well, listen, I hope so. I mean, this is a right of the people, of all the people. And I think that the more small d democratic our Second Amendment is in terms of who's exercising that right to keep and bear arms, I think the better off we all are. And this opens up a whole other topic for maybe another segment. But, it's my belief that one of the issues that has compounded violent crime in, let's say, the west end of Louisville is that there's been an attitude from on high that guns are bad and guns are taboo, and let's just keep people away from guns. And I don't think that works. Again, as you talk about, guns are here. I think part of what we can do to reduce violent crime and neighborhoods and communities that traditionally have had high crime rates, is to inculcate a culture of lawful, responsible gun ownership. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely. My mother being one of those people at first that thought that guns were just bad, and then now I carry a gun for a living. It's just building that respect and rapport and just taking all politics out the window of, hey, this is an American thing and this is our right. And let's all learn together and get through this together and being a more positive gun culture.
Absolutely. Darwin Belliard, man, real pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Hope we get a chance to catch up again soon.
Oh, of course, Cam. Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate Darwin joining us on the program. And yes, we will definitely have an update here in a couple of months. We'll check back in and talk again with Darwin Belliard. All right, let's turn our attention now to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, our recidivist report. We'll start there with a case out of Georgia. Father in Decatur, father and son robbery team gets 24 months probation. Now, I thought maybe this was, something you got, I don't know, somebody who's, maybe robbed a lawnmower or something like that, right? Just stole something minor, maybe. No, that's not it at all. Andy McCulley Jr., the father in a Decatur father and son robbery duo, left a homeless man in fear of his life after accosting and beating him with a brick. Yeah. McCulley Jr. sentenced to 24 months probation in the Macon County Circuit Court after pleading guilty to committing aggravated battery while using a deadly weapon. He was sentenced to 120 days in jail with credit for 94 days already served. But the sentence is not day-for-day eligible. 24 months probation for beating a homeless man with a brick? Are you kidding me? Sorry, I had to edit myself there for a second. This was last Friday. He accepted a plea deal negotiated by his defense attorney. As part of the deal, Macon County Circuit Judge, presiding judge Thomas Griffith, then dismissed further charges of armed robbery and mob action. McCulley's son, by the way, 19-year-old Andy McCulley III, appeared in court back in May, pleaded guilty to the same offense, and received the exact same sentence as his 41-year-old father. So a homeless man beaten with a brick, father and son get probation. As a result, sworn affidavits from the Decatur police said that the McCulleys had pounced on their 31-year-old victim on the morning of April the 20th as he was walking down the street. They demanded whatever the victim had, and when he told them he didn't have anything, they shot pepper spray in his face, began kicking and punching him. Police said McCulley III held the victim while his father hit him with a brick. Quoting the victim, who was left bleeding from the nose and mouth, police officer Riddick Braden said he stated if it wasn't for bystanders intervening, he believes the McCulleys would have killed him. Robbers then fled with the only thing the homeless man had in his possession, a prescription bottle holding 14 pills of Suboxone, a medicine for treating opioid addiction. I'm honestly, I do this segment every day. I'm at a loss for words on this one. I don't understand. You had eyewitnesses. You had physical evidence. What the hell? Why offer both of these individuals a plea bargain that results in probation? This is the justice system. And justice was not done here. Now, today's Armed Citizen story from Evansville, Indiana, not too far away from Louisville, actually. Man shot entering home, exchanging fire with gun owner in the third shooting this week in Evansville, Indiana. According to the Courier Press, one person in the hospital after reportedly entering a home and exchanging gunfire with the homeowner. This was on Saturday afternoon. Police spokeswoman Sergeant Anna Gray said an armed man went into a home. The homeowner and the man reportedly fired their guns at each other. The man who entered the house was shot. Call came into police around 2:20 p.m. on Saturday. Injured man taken to the hospital for treatment. He is expected to survive. Police don't know yet if or how the two knew each other. No arrests have been made as of Saturday evening. But this would appear to be a clear-cut case of self-defense there in Evansville, Indiana. And finally today, our good deed of the day from East Point, Michigan, where a man is being hailed as a hero for helping a crash victim in East Point, Michigan, after helping a crash victim earlier this year. Stedman Stims has a habit apparently, of being in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. And that's a good habit to have. He said, I was outside talking to a customer and I heard screeching. He said, I looked down. It was a motorcyclist. I guess he was avoiding a car because she stopped unexpectedly in front of him. Motorcyclist, ended up basically planting on the street across from where Sims works. He said, I saw he hit the curb. He flew up 2 or 3 times in the air before he hit the pole. So the motorcyclist pretty badly injured. He had a broken leg. Stedman Sims and another man rushed over to the scene, working with us to get his leg stabilized until help arrived. Roland, who also assisted Stedman Sims, said, my first reaction was just to dart across the street, tie his leg up. His bone was hanging out his leg. It was blood gushing, and he came up next. We tied it off, waited for the ambulance. Stedman Sims says he, doesn't really care about being interviewed by the local news, but he said he is very pleased that he is able to help folks out. He says, anytime I see someone in trouble, I just want to lend a helping hand. So the motorcyclist, as it turns out, is going to be okay. Stedman Sims, meanwhile, on the lookout so that he can be of assistance if needed in the future. And Stedman Sims there in East Point, Michigan. Again, we thank you, sir, for your very, very good deed. That is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. Unfortunately, I know we've got to be away for the weekend. And as a matter of fact, I should let you know now, generally we do the show Monday through Thursday. Might have to shift a little bit next week. I'll be off next Monday. This weekend is, it's my wife and I's anniversary. It's a birthday. I'm much more excited about the anniversary than the birthday. So I'm going to be off on Monday, but we will be back with more Second Amendment news and information right here on Bearing Arms Cam and Company next Tuesday. And who knows, maybe you'll even get a rare Friday show next week as a result of me taking Monday off. Not guaranteeing anything, but I'm leaning that way. In the meantime, don't forget, you can check out BearingArms.com for the latest Second Amendment news and information all day, every day, even when we don't do a Bearing Arms Cam and Company. And if you like what you see, you can become a VIP subscriber. All you got to do is go to BearingArms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code GUNS. You'll get 25% off of your membership. You'll get exclusive analysis, commentary, news stories, but you'll also be supporting programs like this. So you get to hear from people like Darwin Belliard doing what he can to make a difference there in his own community. Have a great rest of your week, a fantastic weekend. Until we talk again, be well, be safe, and be free.